In the book The History of the Industrial Revolution by Arnold Toynbee, Chapter 1 The Beginnings of the Industrial Revolution provides an overview and introduction to this period in history. It begins with a discussion on how industrialization began in England during 1760 to 1830 as well as its effects on society at large. This chapter also examines some key figures who were instrumental in driving forward technological advances such as James Watt, Richard Arkwright and Matthew Boulton among others. Additionally, it looks into various aspects that contributed towards making Britain one of Europe's leading powers, including population growth, increased agricultural productivity, improved transportation networks, new sources for raw materials like coal and iron or from abroad or within Great Britain itself, capital investment from wealthy individuals or companies which allowed factories to be built more quickly than ever before, etc. Finally, there is a brief look at other countries around Europe where similar changes occurred, albeit not quite so dramatically due to their own unique circumstances, France being perhaps most notable example here given Napoleon Bonaparte's efforts modernize his nation through military means rather than economic ones, as was done elsewhere. All these factors combined together created what we now know today as the beginnings of the Industrial Revolution, something which would have far-reaching consequences both then and now. Chapter 2 of the History of the Industrial Revolution by Arnold Toynbee focuses on how industrialization spread throughout Europe and North America during the 19th century. It begins with a discussion about why Britain was able to become an early leader in this process, citing its abundance of natural resources, strong infrastructure for transportation and communication networks as well as political stability. This is followed by an examination into other countries that were also successful at developing their own industries such as France, Germany and Belgium, which had access to coal deposits or rivers suitable for powering factories, while Russia lagged behind due to lack of capital investment from foreign investors. Additionally, it looks at some key inventions like steam engines which allowed production processes to be mechanized, leading increased efficiency levels across many sectors including textiles manufacturing where new spinning machines enabled mass production techniques resulting in cheaper goods being available worldwide. Finally, there are discussions around labor movements arising out workers who felt exploited under these conditions along with government policies designed to protect them through minimum wage laws, etc. Before concluding that despite all challenges faced over time, Industrial Revolution has been beneficial overall, providing higher standards living than ever before seen history. Chapter 3 of the History of the Industrial Revolution by Arnold Toynbee examines how industrialization changed society and culture in Europe. It begins with a discussion on the impact that new technologies had on production, including increased efficiency and productivity as well as improved quality control. This led to an increase in economic growth which allowed for more investment into infrastructure such as roads, canals, railways, etc., leading to further development across many industries. Additionally, it discusses how this period saw changes within labor markets due to mechanization, resulting in both positive outcomes, such as higher wages, but also negative ones, including displacement. Furthermore, there was a shift from rural areas towards cities where factories were located. This created overcrowding issues along with other social problems like poverty and crime rates increasing significantly during these times too. Finally, it looks at some cultural aspects associated with Industrial Revolution such as literature reflecting upon its effects or art depicting scenes related to industry/urban life, all demonstrating just how much influence it had over European societies throughout 19th century onwards. Chapter 4 of the History of the Industrial Revolution by Arnold Toynbee examines how industrialization had a profound effect on social and political life in Europe. It begins with an overview of the changes that occurred as a result, including increased population growth due to improved nutrition, greater urbanization, new forms of labor organization such as factories and workshops, more efficient transportation systems like canals, roads, railways, and steamships, which allowed for faster communication between cities across vast distances. This chapter also looks at how these developments impacted politics, from creating larger markets for goods produced through industry to increasing government revenue via taxation or tariffs imposed upon imported products. Additionally, it discusses some negative effects associated with industrialism, namely pollution caused by burning coal used in manufacturing processes, along with overcrowding within cities leading to poor sanitation conditions resulting in disease outbreaks, among other issues. Finally, this section concludes by noting that despite its drawbacks, overall European society benefited greatly from advances made during this period, thanks largely to their ability to adapt quickly while embracing technological progress, thus allowing them to remain competitive globally throughout 19th century onward into present-day times. Chapter 5 of the History of the Industrial Revolution by Arnold Toynbee examines the economic effects that resulted from this period. It begins with a discussion on how industrialization changed production methods, leading to an increase in output and efficiency as well as improved quality control. This allowed for more goods to be produced at lower costs than ever before, resulting in increased profits for businesses and cheaper prices for consumers. Additionally, it discusses how new technologies such as steam power enabled factories to produce larger quantities faster, while also reducing labor costs due to automation or mechanization processes being implemented into manufacturing operations. Furthermore, there was an influx of foreign investment which helped spur further growth within industries during this time frame. However, these investments were often accompanied by exploitative practices towards workers who had little bargaining power against their employers, since they lacked any form of union representation or legal protection under law, yet still needed jobs desperately given high unemployment rates across Europe following wars fought between nations prior to late 18th century / early 19th centuries, when industrial revolution began taking place throughout continent and beyond its borders, i.e. North America. Finally, chapter concludes noting various social changes brought about through introduction modern industry, including rise middle-class population along w/emergence working class movement demanding better wages conditions work, both having lasting impacts society today even after end era itself has passed away long ago now. The chapter begins by discussing the technological developments of the Industrial Revolution, which began in Britain and spread to other parts of Europe. The first development was steam power, which allowed for increased production efficiency and enabled factories to be built on a larger scale than ever before. This led to an increase in industrial output as well as improved transportation systems such as railways and canals that connected different regions together more quickly than ever before. Additionally, new machines were developed during this period, including spinning jennies, which automated cotton spinning, and weaving frames, which mechanized cloth manufacturing. These inventions helped reduce labor costs while increasing productivity levels significantly. Furthermore, advances in metallurgy made it possible for iron products like tools or weapons to be produced at lower cost with greater precision compared with earlier methods using bronze or copper alloys. These innovations also had implications for shipbuilding technology, due largely thanks improvements made by engineers such as John Wilkinson, who pioneered cast iron boat construction techniques from 1787 onwards. Finally, chemical processes used during this time included bleaching powder manufacture via chlorine gas synthesis, invented by Scottish chemist Charles Tennant, and alkali production through Leblanc's process involving sodium carbonate extraction from salt brine. Both discoveries revolutionized soap-making industry practices worldwide. In conclusion, the various technological advancements brought about throughout the course of Industrial Revolution greatly impacted upon economic growth across many countries around the world, leading into modern era we live today. Chapter 7 of the History of the Industrial Revolution by Arnold Toynbee examines how industrialization came to an end in Britain. It begins with a discussion on why it ended, noting that there were several factors at play including technological stagnation and economic decline due to competition from other countries such as Germany and America. This was followed by a period where British industry shifted away from manufacturing towards services, which had been growing since before World War I but accelerated during this time. Finally, the chapter looks at some of the consequences for workers who lost their jobs or saw wages decrease due to these changes. Many moved into new industries while others emigrated abroad looking for better opportunities elsewhere. In conclusion, Toynbee argues that although industrialization has come to an end in Britain, its legacy still remains today through advances made in technology and infrastructure development over previous centuries. Chapter 8 of the History of the Industrial Revolution by Arnold Toynbee examines how industrialization has shaped and changed society. It begins with a discussion on the impact that technological advances have had in terms of economic growth, population increase, urbanization, and social change. This is followed by an exploration into how these changes affected different classes within society, from those who benefited most to those whose lives were adversely impacted due to displacement or exploitation. Additionally, it looks at some key figures such as Robert Owen, who sought to improve working conditions for factory workers through his utopian vision for socialism, which was later adopted across Europe during this period. Finally, it concludes with reflections on what legacy we can draw from this era, one where progress came hand in hand with inequality but also provided opportunities for many people around the world today thanks largely to its innovations in technology and industry. In conclusion, Chapter 8 provides us insight into both positive aspects like increased productivity alongside negative ones such as poverty caused by unequal distribution, wealth resulting from industrial revolution, ultimately leaving behind a complex yet powerful legacy still felt throughout our modern societies today.